Do you feel stuck in your leadership journey? Like you're meant for more, but you're really unsure how to get there right now? The secret for you breaking through lies in this one concept: self-actualization. Now stick with me here, because I'm about to reveal the 5 traits that all exemplary leaders share and how you can develop them too. Thank you for joining me today for Legacy Leaders Lounge. I'm Miles Threat, and I help ambitious leaders just like you build a lasting legacy no matter where you're at in your leadership journey. So I know what you're saying. What is self-actualization really? It's fulfilling one's full potential by aligning your purpose, your passion, and your actions. It's getting all of that in alignment. What do you think would happen for you right now in your business, your nonprofit, or maybe that career you're trying to build if you could get your purpose, your passion, and your actions all in alignment right now? What would happen for you? You see, leaders who have gotten on the path of self-actualization, they bring a unique depth to their leadership. Really and truly, they bring about a lot of transformation for themselves and those around them. And they bring about that transformation because of their authenticity. You see, that authenticity, it builds that trust. It also creates loyalty. What would it be like if you established more trust and you had more loyalty from your team members, the people around you? Because I can tell you, any great leader out there, they didn't become great on their own. They became great because they had a great team around them. It is through their authenticity and their self-actualization that they were able to build and establish that team. You see, as you build self-actualization, you're going to become more confident, you'll be a better decision maker, and you will personally experience long-term fulfillment. What would it be like for you if you loved what you were doing still 10 to 15 years down the road? What would it look like for you to build that even now, that you know you would love what you were doing 10 to 15 years from now? So the 5 traits that I'm going to be introducing to you today are problem-centered leadership, acceptance, creativity, ethics, and the last trait is really what separates good leaders from the legendary leaders. And if you want to be that legendary leader, you're going to want to stick around to the end when I introduce the last trait. It's going to help you build that trust and create that loyalty that lasts a lifetime. And here's the real kicker about it. Most people avoid it because they think it looks weak and they feel like it makes them vulnerable. But it's the key to unlocking your leadership legacy. Now let's dive in. First trait we're going to be diving into is problem-centered leadership. Great leaders don't just put out fires. They solve problems that change lives. Are you focused on the right problems right now? Several years ago, I had a leadership mentor that I was meeting with on a regular basis, helping me grow my leadership. And one of the things that he taught me was you're going to have a lot of fires to have to put out as a leader. It doesn't matter if you're running your own business or nonprofit, or if you're working in the corporate space and you're wanting to climb that corporate ladder. If you really want to make an impact, you're going to have to put out a lot of fires. And if you continually have the same fire coming up, that means you got a real problem and you need to solve that problem. Those fires are going to be normal. It's going to be part of the process. But if you continually have the same one over and over again, that fire, that problem is going to limit your potential. So you got to be able to solve it. As a self-actualized leader, you realize that problems come with the game. Fires come with the game of leadership. But if you continually have the same one coming up over and over and over again, you need to do something about it. You're not worried about the superficial ones. You're worried about that problem that if you solve it, it's going to create meaningful impact for you, the organization, your team, the people around you. And the self-actualized leader, they're going to make impact. And it's not just be for themselves. It's going to be an impact for the team, for the organization, for the big purpose that you're shooting for right now, that big goal. If you're going to be a problem-centered leader, you're going to prioritize those challenges that have long-term significance. You got to think long-term. You got to have that end in mind. What is it looking like? Where are you heading for the next 10 to 15 years? What's it going to look like 5 years from now? And those things that are keeping you from that long-term goal, you've got to remove those problems. You've got to solve those problems. You got to see beyond that immediate crisis right now and learn to focus on the root cause, not just the symptoms. You know what? I've worked a long time in the operations manufacturing space. And one of the things that it has taught me is really problem solving. And a simple problem solving tool is just using the 5 why methodology. Ask yourself why. Why is this problem? And identify why that problem is there. And dig deeper. You might be able to solve it in 3 whys. It might take you 5. It might take you 8. But you've got to sit there and ask why. And then what are the reasons for that why? And then keep building it out until you get to the real root root cause of that problem. You can't band-aid it over. If you band-aid it over, that's why it keeps coming back up. Do your 5 problem-solving methods to determine the real root cause and work your way backwards. I want you to imagine if you're a nonprofit leader right now and you're trying to solve a homelessness issue right now. And instead of just providing temporary housing solutions, why don't you come up with a holistic program that not only creates affordable housing, but also deals with some of the psychological and also the skills, personal skills that they need to manage life, pay bills, have a skill to bring in income so that they can sustain that affordable housing option that you create for them. And you create a holistic program that deals with the whole problem, or maybe you only deal with one part of the problem and you join forces with another nonprofit that deals with the other part of the problem. Maybe you focus strictly on affordable housing and yet you partner with someone else who helps them develop the skills that they need to sustain themselves and sustain their own household and manage it well. Now that would be taking on the whole problem, not just putting a Band-Aid over it for right now. If you focus on meaningful problems, you're going to be able to inspire other people. When you inspire other people, it helps you build those purpose-driven teams and individuals within your company, organization, your team, and they feel like they have a part of that shared vision and they have full buy-in. So what I want you to do with this is, I want you to ask yourself, what is the long-term impact of solving that problem, whatever it is right now, whatever problem you see that continues to come up, what is the long-term impact of solving that problem? And how will it benefit others? If you do that and come up with a solution, put it in the comments below. Now that we looked at problem-centered leadership, we're going to dive into trait 2, acceptance. Here's a hard truth. Self-actualized leaders aren't perfect, and they don't try to be. They accept themselves and others, flaws and all. Acceptance is about recognizing and embracing reality as it is, both the good and the bad. As a self-actualized leader, you understand your own strengths, your weaknesses, and the imperfections of others. And you approach this thing called leadership with compassion, not judgment. There's no room for it. It's really the judgment-free zone. But acceptance, it isn't complacency. It's really clarity. You see, if you're able to accept where you are and who you are, you're really at a better place to lead from authenticity and empathy. Those two are both game changers. Here's a good example of that. And it happened to me just this past week. I made a mistake. It was a poor judgment. I'm working with this manufacturing company, doing some training for them. And in the training, there's some testing involved with the training. And one of the individuals did a really bad job on the test. At least I thought they did a really bad job on the test. And I didn't really look at their answers close enough before I sent off an email and telling their leadership, maybe you ought to put this person on a different team because they don't have the skills that we need for this project right now. Well, those leaders sent an email back and pointed out where they actually got the problems right. They just read the question a different way. And it was some math skills. And they actually did higher level math and I didn't catch it. I messed up. Well, guess what? I admitted in the email that I was wrong and I should have paid better attention and should have noticed that. And, it looks like they'd be a great fit. Let's keep them on the team. By doing that, I'm building trust. I admitted my fault. I admitted my mistake in the process. And when you mess up, you should admit where you did so you can build that trust as well. You see, acceptance, it fosters trust and psychological safety. And in today's world, especially the world of work right now, we need some psychologically safe places to work. See, when they see you as human, they're going to feel more empowered to take on the task that you assign them, knowing that failure isn't going to lead to blame because there's no finger pointing with you. You admit where you fail and where you mess up. You take ownership of it. So one of the things I want you to do with this, I want you to write down one personal strength you have right now and one area of growth. And I want you to practice self-compassion by accepting both without judging yourself. And if you have a team around you, acknowledge their efforts, even when their outcomes fall short. Focus on the solutions. Now let's dive into trait number 3, creativity. Think outside the box. Self-actualized leaders, they kind of live outside the box. And creativity is one of their superpowers. As I talk about creativity as a self-actualized leader, I'm not necessarily talking about it in an artistic form. I'm talking about creativity. It's finding new solutions. It's challenging norms, and it's encouraging innovation. And innovation could be borrowing a good idea and just making it better. You see, self-actualized leaders, they approach problems with a fresh perspective, and they empower their teams to do the same. See, these leaders, they realize that diversity aids innovation, because it allows people to see from their specific perspective, and they take in that perspective to help them come up with an innovative solution. This creativity involves adaptability and the ability to see possibilities when others don't. And I promise you, you'll be misunderstood a lot because you don't comply to the norms. You realize that outdated best practices just don't work, and you're going to be misunderstood because of that. But it's not going to bother you because you're not stuck to clinging to old ways of doing things. Just because someone says that's the way it's always been doesn't mean you have to keep doing it that way. All you have to do is go back a few years when we were living during the COVID pandemic and how so many things had to change in the way that work was done. And some people have been able to respond well and others have not. There were some micro brewing companies that had to be innovative and make some changes. And during that change process, they learned how to produce their own hand sanitizers instead of brewing great beer. During the middle of that, I was working for a manufacturing organization doing training, and so used to doing training in the classroom and go to virtual overnight and learn new skills, how to do that to make an impact. And it's that kind of creativity. Not only saves your business or saves jobs, but it also addresses a societal need at the time. And it's creativity that's going to keep you relevant, especially in an ever-changing world. And it's a big morale booster because it shows people that you value them and their ideas and you're willing to change with the times. So here's my action tip for you. I want you to take a current challenge that you're dealing with right now and brainstorm 10 possible solutions to that challenge right now. Write them all down. Doesn't matter how wild or crazy they may seem at this point in time. Just write them down. As you're doing it, think beyond your constraints. And then you go back over that list of 10 and you pick one of them that you know you can apply and do right now and see what happens. See if it produces the change that you need to see right now. Now that we looked at creativity, we're going to dive into our fourth trait of ethics. True leadership isn't about power. It's about principles. Do your actions reflect your values? Ethics form the backbone for self-actualized leaders. These leaders, they make decisions that are aligned with their values, even if those decisions are difficult or unpopular. It means having the courage to prioritize your principles over profit or just convenience. It's about integrity. It's doing the right thing. Doing the right thing when no one is looking. You have a standard. You've determined that you're going to live by that standard. And you're disciplined to it. It could be as simple as having a lucrative partnership with another business or organization or person. And they're willing to pay you good money to join them. But you know their principles, their values do not line up with yours. And you're not going to compromise your principles and your values for that extra profit. You see, it's that type of leadership, that ethical leadership. It will inspire trust and loyalty. See, people want to follow leaders who stand for something. They really want to follow those leaders who stand for something that's bigger than themselves. What are you standing for right now? Have you clearly defined what your values are? Are you living them out on a consistent basis? And here's the action step for you. Write down your top 3 leadership values. I want you to reflect on a decision that you had to make recently. And did that decision align with those top 3 values that you wrote down? The top 3 values that I talk about for legacy leaders is faith, family, and your finances. Is your faith a priority? Are you putting your family first? And are you managing your money well? Those are the first 3 principles. And I have to look at that for myself. Am I living out my faith? Am I putting my family first? Am I managing my money well? And if I can live by those 3 and stick to those 3, I know I'm living according to my values. Now do that for yourself. And if you realize you're not doing that right now, just think about how you can act differently next time you're faced with that same decision. All right, it's time for that 5th and final trait, the one I ask you to stick around for. And here's the real game changer: authenticity. Leaders who are real, raw, and relatable leave a legacy that lasts. Authenticity is about being true to who you are, your values, your experience, and your vision. Self-actualized leaders, they don't wear masks. They aren't posers. They lead with honesty and vulnerability. Authenticity doesn't mean that you overshare. It means you're consistent with your actions and your words. It's about showing up as the same person. You're just being consistent with who you are. You're the same in that big boardroom or meeting as you are when you're sitting down one-on-one at lunch or in a break room with somebody, or could be out on the golf course with them. You see, as a leader, you're not afraid to share your personal stories, like losing a job, a business venture that fell through, inspire your team. And that kind of vulnerability, it not only makes you relatable, but it also shows resilience. Part of my story is living through moral failure and how it destroyed my marriage and how I had to rebuild my life. It took my nonprofit ministry work away from me. I had to start all over. And there was tons I learned from that. It's not a fun story to tell. It's not something I'm proud of, but it's something I've been able to build my life back from. And it's authenticity like that, it creates connection. Your team, people are more likely to trust you and follow you as a leader if you're willing to be authentic, you're willing to be vulnerable, you're willing to show them that you're a true human and that you make mistakes. And if you've been able to bounce back from them, you're just not afraid to be yourself. Here's the action item for you. Share one personal story of failure with your team that work for you, those around you. It could be a lesson you learned from it or an experience that has shaped your life or leadership style. But share that personal story of your failure and how you came back from it. That's the kind of leader people are looking for. They're looking for you to be that self-actualized leader and be authentic. Now we've covered the 5 traits of the self-actualized leader. They were problem-centered leadership, acceptance, creativity, ethics, and finally, authenticity. Are you ready to unlock your full potential as a leader? You don't have to wait for permission. You can take the first step, and I can help you take that first step. In the description below is a link for your free discovery call, where you can start your transformational journey to become that self-actualized leader and build that lasting legacy. If this video added value today, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, and share this with another ambitious leader just like you that wants to leave a lasting legacy. I'm Miles Threat. Thank you for joining me for Legacy Leaders Lounge.